Alright, this is going to be our last video wrapping up everything. So in this last one, we're going to make everything look a little bit nicer, add in our last two features, which will show us the lives, and then end the game at the right time. And then you'll be good to go to add in your additional extension and then submit the project. So in order to make the project look a little bit nicer, I've made one alteration from the last time that we programmed together, and that was changing the size of some of the pieces that we see in our game. I've made my player a little bit smaller, the gems much smaller, and the baddies a little bit bigger. Another thing that I'm going to change in this version is right now when I run around and I play this game, you can see my lives appear on this printout over off to the side. However, they don't appear anywhere on the game screen, which makes it a little bit difficult for me to know what's going on unless I've got the IntelliJ window open right behind it. So in order to help me out there, what I would love to be able to do is print out where my lives are at as I'm playing. So that way I can see when I increase or decrease lives. And if you wanted to add in extensions that show something about you blinking a few times as the player to show that you were injured before you reset or something like that, that's a fine thing to do as well. Right now we just have that quick reset. So that's our first thing that we're going to do, and then the next thing that we're going to do is figure out how to decide and detect when the game should be over, and then what we should display if that's the case. Alright, so here we go. The sizes that I've changed to is my player is now a size of 20, my gems are now a size of 10, and just for fun, I made my baddies a size 28 in this case. So that's how I've resized everything from there. And now my last two steps that I want to do is figuring out how to, end the game, and that's pretty much it. The first thing I'm going to put in is refiguring where I'm going to print out those lives. Because right now I have it printing as I do that collision detection, but I can do it in a better place. As I go to play the game, just right here, before I even ask any of the gems or baddies to do any of their movement, we're just going to display text to show lives. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change my background color to be white in this case, so that way I can have the text be whatever color I want it to be and it'll show up nicely. For right now, I'm going to have it fill with black to be the color of the text, and then we just say that command of text. And then I'm going to use that exact same message that I was using in my print statements. That'll be the message that I use. However, there's two other arguments that go into the text. You put in a string, and then you put the X and Y position of where you would like that text to appear. So we're going to put it at, let's say 550 for our X direction so that it's on the rightmost edge of the screen, and then 550 in the Y direction, so it's at the bottom of the screen. So let's test that out. We're going to comment out the ones that are printing off to the side in our console, and let's test out how that looks now. Oops, what did I miss? Forgot my semicolon to end that line. There we go. Let's run this now. Okay, so now you'll see that the background is white. If you wanted to leave your background black, that's fine as well. And we can see lives exist right here. It's a little bit too far off the screen, so we're gonna have to move it back in the X direction a little bit, and I'd actually even want to move it down just a tad. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We'll move it back to, 500 in the X direction, and we'll move it to 575 in the Y direction. And let's see how it looks now. There we go, so we can see our lives very clearly. So now as I dance around, you can see that my lives are changing. You will also notice that right now I have a stroke color around each of my objects that is black. So if I hit a baddie, my lives go down, great. If I collect a gem, my lives increase. There's a stroke color that is black around each of my objects, the gems, the baddies, and the player. If you want that to match the color that they are being filled with, you could also just say stroke p1.color right before, and now when I draw it in, my player should no longer have that black outline. It should now be all green, and it is. However, it also is making all of my baddies and my gems outline in that neon green, so if I wanted to change it, I would have to do that same idea of stroke again for the gems and for my baddies. But again, that's like adding in additional display features, and maybe you're going to be someone who adds in images, so then you don't really care about worrying and playing around with those color features all that much. Okay, great. So now that takes care of all of the things that we wanted to as far as display. So the last step that we need to do is figuring out when the game should end. Logically, because we have this idea of lives going on for us, we would like our game to end when our lives hit 0. When our lives is no longer greater than 0, we would want to be dead as the player, because that's when the game ends. So what we want to do then is have a check for if we are still alive or not. And the reason I'm adding this up here is if we're alive, we should do all the game actions that are the things that I'm talking about below. And then if not alive, which will happen afterwards, maybe we'll say freeze the screen or wipe the screen. You choose if you want this screen to wipe screen, let's say. Yeah, we'll wipe the screen and show end game message. So what I mean by that is, if we're going to do this in this case, what we'd want to check is if lives is greater than 0, and remember it's not just lives, sorry, it is p1.lives is greater than 0. If that's the case, then let's do all of the actions of the game. Gosh, we got tons of space there. Let's do all of these game actions. So now all of this exists within inside of my if p1.lives is greater than 0, and to end that we would have to say else, meaning our lives are no longer greater than 0, so we died. So then what we'd want to do is maybe let's wipe the background this time, and we'll have the background, I don't know, be black maybe here to show that we've died, and then we will fill with, I don't know, let's fill with red text. And display text right in the middle of the screen that says, sorry, game over, sad face. And we'll put that at 300, 300. Likely we'll need to move that around, but we'll play around and see. And let's go ahead and get started. So let's try right now. I think I'm gonna do, no, it's not that hard to die off a few times in this game. So let's try it out. I'm gonna purposely be the worst player of this game ever and only run into the baddies and not try to collect any of the gems. Nice, I've got only 2 lives left. Okay, catch up to this baddie. Now I've got 1 life left. All right, here we go. Go get the baddies. Someone get me. Nice. And then we see sorry, game over, and just that black screen. So again, if you'll notice that text is a little bit small and it's off to the side just a bit, so we'll move our text back to be at, I don't know, 250. And we can also say text size and make our text size huge if we wanted. If we do that, we'll have to move our text back just a little bit more. Let me play one more time as the world's worst gems and baddies player. Oh goodness, that killed me quite quickly. But there we go. It says sorry, game over, just like that. A great extension right here would be an option to have a button that says play again. And then if we do that, it would respawn your player back to the starting position. You could add that in right there, and you would have to then have mouse click detection and all of those things, but that would be a great extension to be able to continue playing once you have died and the game is over. But once we are at this point, if you've noticed, I've got gems, I've got baddies, I've got a player that runs around, collects some gems, avoids the baddies, got lives showing up and appearing in the ways that we want, and there we go. So this is a fully functioning game at this point. Add in whatever little extra flair to make this game yours, and you are, oh gosh, I keep getting hit by that one, and you are good to go. So that is pretty much it at this point. You've done it. Congratulations.